you can see the dashboard of the reporting interface right now. Fantastic. Now, whilst we wait for some questions to come in, I thought I'd just do a general overview of the functions and how they work, and we'll see how we go from there. So good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everybody. This is the dashboard. In the various sections, you can see a little map of where people have been signing in from. And these KSPs up at the top, we've got the top resources in the last 30 days or last week. You can pick any of those numbers. Those are how many authentications you've had recently, how many accounts you had on the system yesterday. And any of these, let's say you want to drill into up to date, you can click the button and that will actually go to that report. Let's do a breakdown by job role, because these guys have some job roles. It's that Holby General that I'm using at the moment. That goes straight into the report. Now, the normal way we'd get to this kind of report, the resources report, the resources usage, and there we have all our standard defaults coming up. Various controls across here do kind of what you think in many cases, the start and end dates as you'd imagine, but the granularity, you can set hourly, daily, or monthly granularity. That will change through. It should come up any second. There we go. Let's go back a couple of months. There we go. We should any second have some nice monthly figures for September, October, and November, and December's not going to show up until the end of the month. Right, we can break that down by a couple of different ways. If we're only interested in one resource, we can pick just the one resource if we want. Let's try up to date, because we've already seen that one's there. There we go. Or we can look at all resources, and we can break down by any of these fields here: permission set, user group. This organization's got job role set up as a reportable attribute. In fact, you can have almost any attribute set up as reportable, and I'll show you how to do that a little later. You can even break down by resources and another one. So say doing this one by resource and by permission set. You get the data come up. This isn't going to look particularly usable in the interface, because each combination of resource and job role is going to have its own line. But what you can do to make that more useful is you just go to the download, save it to your computer. Summary for all organizations is normally the one you want, and that will download that file for you, and I shall open that up when it appears. There we go. There we go. So we got the organization name there. I'm not going to show you all that, but there are the job roles, resources along the top, and there are the numbers. All the stuff a growing librarian needs. Good stuff. Okay. Well, there's other reports we've got in here as well, and all the ones under the account section are new to anyone who's used to the old system. This one, the totals thing, gives you a snapshot of how many accounts you had over the previous period. So we can see that on this date, 16th of September, 6,358 accounts, personal accounts, whereas over here, 6,460. You can see how that changes over time. Break it down by account type, account status, activity, accounts modified, change passwords, created, and so on. All that information is there. It's all new. We've got information here about the authentications. Now, this is mostly about why people didn't manage to sign in. So your failed passwords and your locked accounts will show up here. Successful there. It's not broken down by anything else, because since this report is mostly about the failures, we don't know anything else about the account other than why it failed to log in. Really cool piece of information here. This dotted line, that represents unique users, i.e. in this case there were 182 successful things, but they came from 118 unique users. So some users logged in more than once. That's what that means. And you can look that up in the failed passwords as well. Here you can see, say this day, 21 people failed passwords 49 times between them. Good stuff. Now, once they've signed in, we've got a bit more detail available about them under the usage thing. So we can break that down by, let's look at job role again. So we can see over that period, 3,826 sign-ins by doctors, 1,700 by students. All of those things are in there. Is that all cool so far? Michelle's nodding. That's enough for me. Okay, let's look at some of the other stuff you can do. Now, it's the resources report, which most people are interested in because that's what they're used to looking at before. And there's a couple of extra things that we haven't covered yet on here. For example, I've shown you the breakdowns and the resources, but we haven't looked at this scope control here. And that's where you can say, I'm just interested in this organization that I'm signed in as, or I want to include all of my sub-organizations as well. Now, just changing the scope thing will change the totals, but if you then do a download, as we saw, one of the options for this download, when you save it to your computer, was the summary for all organizations, and that gives it to you broken down by organization as well, just as you used to be able to get. Good stuff. It gets even better. If there's something that you want to see every single day, let's say, I don't know, let's say you want to find out about how many people got the password wrong every day or every week. You can schedule that report to be generated and go, spell passwords, let's have that weekly or daily, doesn't matter. You can send it to yourself, you can specify a list of other recipients to send to, however you want to distribute that, or you can just leave it sitting in the saved reports pile. Interesting thing about this one, anything you send to the other recipients, they get a read-only view of the data. They can see the charts, they can see the table underneath the chart, but that's all they can do. Whereas the link that you get sent yourself, that gives you full access to the interface, and you can do whatever you need to do from there. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Right, I'll tell you what, I'll just set that one up. And where that would appear when it was click on that, any that were generated, which for this one would start tomorrow, will appear under here on the list, and you just click onto one of those to bring up the report. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Quick show of hands, who thinks that's pretty cool? Hopefully that's still got the raise hand button in the interface.
Fantastic. Yep, people are raising their hand.
Okay, do we have any questions coming in yet?
Not yet.
Not yet?
No questions yet.
Okay. I can do that all again. Oh, I said I'd tell you how to turn on setting different things to come up in this breakdown list, didn't I? Whilst we're waiting for the things to come in, I said that any attribute can be set as reportable. And I've got a little admin area over here I can show you that on. So in your admin area, as the top level administrator, the domain administrator of your thing, you have access to a couple of extra functions underneath preferences. And that's to do with things like attribute release, domain preferences. But the one that we're interested in right now is called the schema editor. And that's where you can add extra pieces of information to your accounts. For example, on this one, I've got a required attribute on all my accounts for people to say which is their favorite Star Trek. You may have a more practical use for this. This was an example. But if you want this to be something that starts showing up in the reporting interface, just tick the reportable thing there, save that, and that will start recording that data right away, and then that will start showing up in the interface in time. Now, the limitation on that is that any users who don't have that data populated, it won't be recorded for them. So if you're going to do something like this for a favorite show, or this could be a department or a job role, you would spend a bit of time pre-populating that data before you start relying on it. Now, another question that comes up a lot is, how do I get usernames into those reports? Now, if you still need those, even though you can record lots of other things in there, I'm sorry, I'm being shown something by Michelle. No, don't mind. So if you do still need to get usernames in there, you undo the core attributes section here, find the one you're interested in, username, first name, last name, title, whatever. And this little thing over here, this is marked as reportable. Click that, save, and that will start recording them into the statistics. A word of warning, this does have privacy implications if you turn on things like the username or the email address or their names. So make sure you're okay to do it. And with lots of the other functions that are available now, in many cases, you won't need to do that. If the department data is in the system, you can report that in the system. You don't need to export stuff to cross-match it.
All I was showing you was that you kind of read our registrants' minds in that Samantha was then asking if user ID level reporting was available yet.
Yes, no,
And she asked just as you were showing us.
Well, according to the release notes, which I happened to have been looking at within the hour, that went out on the 15th.
Great, thanks, Andy.
That's there. So, but you do need, the important thing is you do need to turn it on if you need to use it before you can get any statistics. There is no way to backdate it.
Is it worth going through that and turning on one more time, just so they've...
Yeah, sure. So let's say we're here. We need to go to the schema editor, which is available if you are the domain administrator. Core attributes are collapsed by default, but any attribute can be set as reportable. Let's turn that one on as well. Let's put another one in there, Bob. And say that that's also reportable. And expand the core attribute section. And if you want username in there, or something like department, position, if you happen to have data in there, turn them on, click save, and it will then start saving that information. Now, there's stuff in the documentation about how to populate data into those fields if you have them. For example, if I list accounts here and pick, I don't know, half a dozen here, I don't know if anyone of you have noticed there's a new modified details function that's gone in there, so we can now set the favorite show for all of those accounts in one hit like that. It's going to go in there, and if I show that data, the information, there we go. It's all been updated.
Brilliant.
Good stuff.
Okay, so another question's come in.
Fantastic.
The reports don't appear to allow me to run one report for use of each of our resources against job role.
That was one we showed earlier. Resource has a secondary breakdown available. So if you click on resource in the breakdown, not under resource, but under breakdown, you can get a secondary breakdown pop up, and that's when any of your things come up. So job role in this particular question. And that's the one, because it's a bit confusing in the interface, you might want to download it to make the best use of that. If you have sub-organizations, exactly the same thing will apply. You'll want to use exactly the same download option as well, which is going to come up any second. There we go. And that's the summary for all organizations, and that brings up that spreadsheet like I showed earlier.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Next question that's popped in is, where has the overall total of resources used in my monthly stats gone?
It's still there. Let's go for a basic one. All resources broken down by resource. It would not make a lot of sense to include a line for it here, because what would happen is we'd have one line up here and then a great big mash of all the other things down at the bottom. What that would mean is literally everyone, to make the page useful, would have to deselect something. So you can download it, or one of the download options is to view as HTML. And there's the total. Total's up here in the top, all along the top.
Brilliant. Thank
Good
you.
stuff.
So keep the questions coming in if you want to ask Andy anything about the new reporting interface or the functionality that's just been released.
I'm also willing to accept questions about my baby boy who's about to turn 1. I can talk about that for even longer than reporting.
Okay, so someone's just asked that they're trying to run reports based on a position and they can't work out how to do that.
Okay, depends what you mean by position, but if that means running reports by position, that was one in the
yes.
That's in the one of the core attributes is called position, isn't it? There it is. So all you would do is go to your schema editor, mark that as reportable.
And like you showed earlier.
Yeah. Job done.
Next question. I'm unable to access the reports we need, i.e. all resources or organisations at monthly level for November.
Okay. Granularity monthly. All resources are presumably, well, this one will just all resources, listing all of the resources together, broken down by resource. Let's look at the HTML version. Then we have September, October, November. We see nothing in December yet. So there we go. Oop. All kinds of good stuff. Wow, all of those things, all of those things. Ah, that's strange. The total normally appears on the left, but very big totals up here. There they go. 17,098 for all three of those months. About 5,700 a month. That's fairly consistent, isn't it? Okay, what's the other questions that normally get asked? The answer to most of the questions we've been asked over the last month has always been download it. That's the main answer to most of the questions.
And as I was saying, and many questions about what the differences are between the if people know what the old reporting looked like and this reporting interface.
Well, something I prepared in the documentation was a little transition guide, which looks at all the reports that used to be available and tells you how to do the same or the equivalent thing in the new interface.
So they define that on our docs.openathens.net website?
Yeah, and what I've done is, because this is it's a transition guide, I've tucked underneath the page that lists all of the reporting changes, which is itself under the release notes.
Mm-hmm.
So the reporting changes are here, shows you all the new functions, all the ones that have actually come in and been added to the new ones since we did the initial launch in September. Information about making the most of them. That's all sitting in the release notes, which is a very useful page because that tells you all the new functions as they happen. And if you go into the per page help, reporting has its own section. It tells you all about it, including the FAQ. There we go.
Brilliant. What I'll do is when we send out the recording over showing what Andy's just gone through, I'll also send out the links again just to remind people where they are. Another good question that's come in. What reporting features are we currently working on that will be released in 2019?
None. We're doing some refining and some optimization. Anyone who's on the call who has a very, very large organization, and I'm talking hundreds of sub-organizations and hundreds and thousands of user accounts, might have noticed that some reports take slightly longer than the interface is prepared to wait for. Times out at 30 seconds. For these organizations, what we're doing at the moment is we're working on optimizing several of the queries so that they run faster. And for the really, really big organizations, they'll still be able to get the reports at the same kind of detail as the smaller organizations can. What we're putting more effort into at the moment is the audit function. Now that's something that's we had to take it away for a while because of things to do with databases and migrating and lots of technical stuff, but we've got auditing functions going back in there now, and hopefully you'll agree they're doing a bit more useful thing. For example, this account was updated on the 20th of November. The organization was changed from this to that by this account. So if you have multiple administrators who could do things to your account, it will tell you who has done it to the account. It'll tell you which account it is, and it's very similar to the activity stream, which is already on the account, which shows you what's happened to the account. Now, what's being released in the next, I think next week, late this week, early next week, is back in the old days, those things used to link through to the audit page. We temporarily turned that off because the audit page didn't go back as far as 30 days. So people might have got confused by this number saying 50, and when you went to the audit page, there were only 3 things on there. So we dialed that back a little bit temporarily. That's going to be out in the next few working days. Exactly when I don't know. Great.
Going back to reporting, the map.
The map.
Yeah. Can you show or can you view who has used OpenAthens in another country?
Who?
Which users have used OpenAthens from?
Not through the reporting interface, you can't, but it will show up in auditing.
Okay.
Sort of. At the moment, it's only going to show up if they've done something naughty, like somehow managed to log in from 6 different countries on the same day. That's something so unlikely as to mean that we're gonna call shenanigans on that one and stop their account working until you have a chance to look at it. Wow, this organisation was changed a whole bunch, wasn't it? But basically, what the audit shows you is when they sign in, it tells you where they come from. So you got that information in front of you. Let's see if we go in here. I don't think there are any failed events for this account. No, there aren't.
So going back to the map interface and reporting,
okay.
Is it worth going through that, because that didn't used to be
there at all?
No.
Okay, so it's there for the usage report. You can see that, and that's the same map that appears on the dashboard, and that shows you where your users were when they were signing in. And for this particular organisation, they've got people legitimately all over the world. So we can get some Rush 2. That's the lightest colour blue. Vast majority of them are going to be in the UK for that time period. Yeah, it's interesting because this one, North Korea, isn't always 0 for everyone. That was very curious. And we have had a couple of questions coming in, things like how accurate is that map? It's the geolocation data is as accurate as Google's geolocation data is, so it's pretty accurate, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's 100.000% accurate, but it's quite close to that.
So if anyone wants to send in any more questions, anything they want to be shown how to do, next few minutes is the time to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks pretty much like we've
answered
all the current burning questions, and you've walked through the new features.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, let's have a look at do you want to have a look at the hourly granularity for something? Let's have a look at, say, early November. This is a much busier thing. It's put so much data in there that you may notice it's automatically cut the period down to 2 weeks. There you go. Wow, so good. Switch that to a bar graph. That's going to look awesomely bad. In case you're wondering, that rotating in the middle is just because there are literally so many data points that it's trying to plot on that graph. That's all. So there we go.
Great, thanks, Andy. There doesn't seem to be any more questions coming in, so I think we're probably safe to wrap that up after nearly half an hour.
Okay, if anyone wants to click on this feedback button and send us a smiley face now, that will make everyone feel much better.
Or just feedback how you feel.
Okay, yeah, frowny face is also accepted. Okay, well, thank you very much for your help, Michelle. I understand you've got an advert to show people as well.
I'm just going to wrap up and say thanks for Andy's time, and just also invite everyone to come to our conference, which is on the 19th of March in London. Information is available on our website. If you go to the website, it's underneath resources, and there's conference, or you can go to openathens.org/OpenAthens-conference-2019. I'll also put that as a reminder in the follow-up email after this webinar. Tickets are on sale now. Don't miss out. It will be a great day. And I just want to thank everyone for joining and taking this time to go through the reporting.
The value of conference tickets can go up as well as down.
Thanks, Andy. All right, and goodbye now.
Okay, bye everybody. Have a lovely day.